Today we will be reviewing Eraserhead, directed by David Lynch. Stay tuned to hear our score and find out what we liked and hated about this movie.
Is this a metal thing?
Yes. Little taste.
David, what is this?
It's pretty thick.
Break.
I have to kill a lot of people. Just tell me what you want me to fuck.
I have big tits and a tiny vagina.
Oil me up, Daddy.
I can't believe that Bryce prefers big tits. Mistletoe alert. This is backcountry.
This guy was a real jerk.
How long can Hugo being pregnant?
Chomp, 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 chomp.
Oh, you're such a dick, David.
Okay, everybody, put on your corpse handling gloves.
Ew.
Hoodie Picasso. Horror.
Hello and welcome to Horror Movie Talk. We are an opinionated and accidentally funny horror movie review show. I'm Max Allen, a man of passion. And with me, as always, is Sydney Lee, who you might recognize from HMT Bachelorette, and Bryce Hansen, the glue that holds this podcast together. We review a different horror movie every single week. New theatrical releases always get priority, but we also review older horror movies, both good and horrible. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. The full video will be available over on YouTube. Don't be a square. Make sure to share. Also, check out patreon.com/horrormovietalk, the equivalent of the adult section at your video rental store. There's lots of cool things over there. And in fact, you can go and vote for a movie for us to watch, just like those who voted for Hush, which we will be doing not this week, but maybe next week. If you want to add your P to the community pool, go to horrormovietalk.com or call 682-253-4468 and leave us a voicemail. Guys, we've got a great show for you today. We will be reviewing... That's right. Eraserhead. Thank you. Yes. We'll start out by giving a brief review and our score for the movie. We score on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being terrible, 10 being amazing. After we give our score, we'll get into spoilers and take a deeper dive into what we liked and hated about this film. Later on, we will be playing Name That Eraser. Just kidding. No, I didn't make a Name That Eraser game. We're going to play Horror Movie Horrors, a little thing where we play your voicemails. I think we have at least 3, so.
You weren't going to do Guess That Baby? Name that baby?
Well, I didn't wake up early enough to make a game, so. For Name That Eraser, I was thinking of just, like, doing different brands of erasers and, like, cropping out the name. And having you guys guess. That would have been fun.
Scholastic.
But, yeah. But alas, I was seepy this morning.
Oh.
More. Eraserhead can be found on Max, previously known as HBO Max.
Or if you have the Criterion Collection DVD, you can also watch it there, because I have the Criterion Collection DVD of Eraserhead, and you can watch it on the DVD if you have a Blu-ray. Mm-hmm.
If you didn't know, Sydney is an Eraserhead freak.
I would say
Don't
David Lynch. Freak.
dare besmirch David Lynch's name around Sydney. She will shut down.
Click.
Oh, shoot.
You still
They
haven't
will
sent
shut
me my
down.
clicker.
There we go.
The
I love
clicker
hearing
is
it.
the best. It's like training a dog.
Yeah, they will shut down so quickly, and you will be in the doghouse. Sydney is so wary of my takes on David Lynch.
Yeah, but like I just feel like your takes like don't make sense sometimes. Like I'm like you
Like
hate
David
him.
Lynch movies, almost.
Why can't you just love it for the vibes? Just love it for the emotion.
Just, yeah, okay. All right.
Sydney, you need to be nice to Bryce because he had his first Zin this week, and
Hey
He's
guys,
still coming off that high.
5 days clean.
6 days sober.
Oh, okay.
6 days. Hashtag 6 day sober Zin. You know.
Yeah, that was the funniest thing ever. Bryce just like sends us a text that he's doing a Zin. He bought Zins and he's doing it. And me and Max just respond and we're like, no, don't do nicotine. Don't do it. And he's like, I thought you guys would be happy for me.
Well, I 100% thought you were joking because that's so out of character for you.
I know.
It's not. It's not really. I mean,
It seems like it is, at least.
Have
like
you ever had a cigarette?
No. I've tried smoking pot before and I hated it
Oh, that's different though.
because I hate smoking. Like I couldn't smoke. That's the thing. Like I can't do it. I hacked out a lung for like 20 minutes after trying to take one puff. It's just like I don't understand how people do it.
That's the
but,
beauty of the Zin.
Yeah. But anyways, like I think we should all quit together. I could really use your guys' support quitting nicotine.
I told you my. We could talk more on the afterpod about this, but
Right,
I told
right.
you my.
I
The
know.
way I'd do it.
I will probably do that. But I think we need to open it up to Sydney too. I mean, we all need to quit together. We all know it's bad for us.
Mm-hmm.
We all want to quit nicotine. So, frankly, it's making it real hard for me not to maintain my sobriety because, I see Sydney puffing
Yeah.
away
It is pretty rude, Sydney.
and Max is, he's just shoving it in my face all the time. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I got 12 Zins in my mouth right now.
it's disrespectful is all I'm saying. I
Upper
think we should all
deckers,
quit
lower
together.
deckers.
We can be our each other's strength.
Yeah. Well,
All right.
I agree. Let's get into this review,
Well, good.
ladies
The first
and gentlemen.
step is admitting you have a problem, Max, and
Mm-hmm.
you're making that. Sydney, do you have a problem?
Oh yeah. Oh
All right.
my
well,
god.
that's the
yeah.
first step. All right, let's
You
keep
should
going.
see my desk. Wow, that was clipped.
You guys ready to do this or what?
Yeah.
Alrighty, because you know what? Some people say about this podcast that there's a little too much talking going on.
Let's analyze Eraserhead. Let's go over every beat of Eraserhead. That's what the
Yeah.
people want.
Well, we will. Turns out there's not that many beats.
There really isn't.
There's lots of
And-
beats. What are you guys talking about?
It's a pretty
No,
short
okay.
movie.
Here's the thing. I'm gonna give my synopsis real quick, but I struggled writing the synopsis because it's the movie is mostly vibes,
Yeah.
and the beats are few and far between. I basically get us halfway through the movie with my synopsis, but I'll just
Well,
jump into it.
Yeah, let's try it.
Eraserhead is a movie about an awkward man named Henry who reconnects with his long-lost lover Mary over a lovely dinner of small chickens. They're the same as big chickens, except small. After finding out the shocking news that Mary has given birth to Henry's child, the two get hitched and strap in for the slow, steady life of settled family. The baby soon causes turmoil in the young couple's life, and Henry must learn what fatherhood truly means in the depths of sleepless nights and constant screaming. There's some other stuff that happens, but honestly, I don't know what any of it is.
I honestly love that you just didn't say the very obvious thing where the baby is fucked up. Like, the baby is not
Hey.
right.
Sydney, he's a little angel. There's nothing wrong with
He doesn't even have
okay,
a name.
with Henry's baby.
This is okay. This is a part of becoming a new father. I felt for this baby. The first time I watched this movie, I was like 20, and I was like, "Look at that ugly little thing. What is that thing?" This time, I was like, "Why does no one hold it? It's so sad."
Because it's probably a puppet underneath the table. That's why.
My review is Eraserhead is one of those movies that I want to like more than I do. Thank you. The whole time I'm watching it, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, yes, this is so unique and thought-provoking. I'm so glad art like this exists. How much longer is left in this movie? love making you laugh, Bryce. I found myself checking the runtime at several points, hoping it was almost over, only to realize only 15 minutes had passed by. However, to this movie's credit, it truly is a spectacle. Many have likened this movie to what experiencing a nightmare or strange dream feels like. Time moves awkwardly slow, a low hum and sharp static hang over most of the scenes, and even the mere movements of the characters feel so off. If you're going into this movie expecting to understand it or get the message, you may be disappointed to find that there may not even be one. Though despite Lynch's ethereal style of movie making, I still feel like I caught some themes of the stress of marriage and fatherhood, dealing with overbearing prudish in-laws, and the horror that is whatever newborn babies simply are. As a father of a small baby myself, I felt an attachment to the small creature that they attempt to pass off as a premature child, and the sheer fragility of an infant felt close to home to me. The movie pulls off exactly the feat that it's going for. It made me feel something. Even if that something was an eerie, stilted, boring, nervous feeling, at least it was something. I said a lot of negative things about this, but in reality, I actually do find some enjoyment in this movie, even if it's in a weird way where I'm not really enjoying it. 7 out of 10.
Well, I'm surprised you gave it a 7.
I'm telling you, I want to like it so bad that I'm going to give it a high score.
I want to hear what Bryce says before I do anything.
I don't want to offend anyone, but no, I actually kind of liked Eraserhead for what it is, and I think a lot of my like aversion to a lot of David Lynch movies is like you could analyze it through like a sweet spot or the uncanny valley, and I treat like surreal imagery and scenes or kind of experimental movie stuff as it's either, if you're trying to go for a narrative movie and put it in the surreal scenes, there's kind of a sweet spot for adding surreal imagery that doesn't derail your message for the movie that you're trying to tell through the narrative. And David Lynch, for me, goes a little too far off of that sweet spot, and it wanders into just arbitrary, territory where it doesn't feel like it necessarily has anything to do with the message of the movie, and it's so left up to your interpretation that it's just confusing. And some people really like that, but for me, there's a sweet spot. And then in terms of like, analyze it from Uncanny Valley, there's also like a level where you want to make an experimental movie, but then there's I don't know, there's a good mix, and sometimes Lynch doesn't hit it for me, but this movie is very much more like an experimental movie, and so pretty much anything he does, it's not going to feel out of place. Like, it's very much communicated that this is not a normal movie. And it's really impressive that it's his first feature-length film. And he has a strong vision. The visuals are, like, really strong. And I do think that there is a strong message or a strong, like, theme throughout it, which is young adulthood for men. Entering into adulthood and responsibilities is nerve-wracking and scary, and you don't quite want to take it on. And so the representation of his relationship with his girlfriend, wife,
They get married.
They have to get married, yeah.
Yeah, his wife, his relationship with his in-laws, is all something that seems overbearing and not something he wants to take on. He's a little cowardly in terms of engaging with that, and feels like he's being forced into it. And the ultimate expression of this anxiety is the baby, which the fact that it looks like a disgusting little worm is just a representation of the alien feeling of, am I supposed to be feeling something about this baby? Because it just feels like a huge annoyance and burden and being thrust upon me. And it underlines that even more with the wife leaving him alone with the baby. And those themes are really strong throughout the movie, to the point where he tries, or he attempts to escape, which is kind of a theme with young men too. It's like, you can either, the perspective that this is all a burden, this is all overwhelming and anxiety ridden, is kind of an immature view, but I'm sure is one that is held by people who are in that stage of their life. And the kind of happy ending of being able to escape that, whether it is through death or through eloping with some hussy in a radiator, is like kind of a dream for young men that want to put off their responsibilities, don't want to take responsibility for their own choices and actions. And as like a mature adult father, I can see through it and be like, yeah, that I can see his internal reality and how he's thinking that, but I don't agree with the conclusion of the movie, though. I think like the message of the movie is he's not in control. He needs to escape. And I don't agree with that, theme. I think him being able to take responsibility and find happiness in a situation from the choices that he's made is probably the more important thing to make, but that's not what this movie is. But I mean, even to analyze it from like an actual thematic, analysis is kind of weird for this movie, because it is very surreal. It's very dreamlike. It's very vibey, and I think he does really well with it. I think some elements seem a little unnecessary, and there's still some confusing stuff in it that I don't quite understand what the point of it is. Like the spacey stuff.
The sperm stuff, yeah.
The sperm stuff. The post-apocalyptic industrial feel of it is not quite connected, I feel, to the narrative. But I think almost with like experimental films, it's like de rigueur to put in post-apocalyptic industrial feel, because everyone's miserable, and so that's the best way to communicate everyone's miserable. But I liked it. I actually liked it. I share Max's sentiment that it's something that I wish I could like more of, but I am also checking the time. It's not a pleasant movie to watch.
No.
It's very interesting, but I did have to pause it a couple times and go do other stuff and come back to it. And it feels more like homework when you're watching movies like this, especially when it's on, Criterion Collection, and film nerds talk about it, and you're like, all right, I guess I better watch Rashomon eventually. And then some of those movies you really like, and you're like, wow, this is life-changing that I saw this. And some movies are like Eraserhead. But I give it a strong 8 out of 10. I'd still recommend it. It's not terrible. It is a very, very strong entry. And if I was introduced to David Lynch for the first time through this movie, I would be impressed and want to see where he goes with it. And then his next movie is Elephant Man, which is my favorite movie of his. And then he gets to do whatever he wants. And whatever he wants is not stuff that I usually want to watch.
This movie is way better than Fire Walk with Me. That's for sure.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, who can say? I mean, what do we know? We haven't watched 20 hours worth of TV to
Interviews.
and interviews and documentaries to appreciate it. So
That's true.
maybe it is a much better movie, Max.
That is true.
I mean, I'm almost gonna cry because you gave it an 8. Like I'm so shocked. Like I did not think you were gonna do that. That is so, wow. I'm glad that.
And this definitely isn't a conspiracy just to make you happy for
Right.
one episode.
Well, my real score is a 1, but I don't want to offend Sydney, and I don't want to.
No, give your real. Is that really your real score? Because I don't want you guys to
You'll
lie.
never know. You'll never know.
I don't want you guys to lie just to
No,
please me.
Sydney, I said we weren't doing that.
We wouldn't lie to you. No,
No, please
honestly,
don't. I don't
honestly,
like
it
lying.
is.
I
it
was
is an
giving
8
my
for me.
serious score.
Okay, good. Yeah. It's funny. So with the Criterion DVD, there's like a 50-page interview that David Lynch did after Jack Nance died, actually, who plays Henry. And there's a lot of like answers, kind of, because obviously the interviewer was asking him about this movie. He calls this his Philadelphia story. Which I've never seen that Philadelphia story, but he was like, the only thing I'm missing is Jimmy Stewart. He grew up in an industrial town, David Lynch did, and it was just like that's the vibe that he wanted to curate here, was like, oh, like this is like my hometown, and I really like the like solitude of that, and the scariness of the noises, and like just how barren it seems and how weird people are like in a town like that. So that's the vibe that he wanted to curate here, which I think is really cool. And it's also really interesting because so this movie took him 5 years to make because he just couldn't get the funding. Like he had to work as like a paper boy while making this movie just to get extra cash, just to be able to shoot it. And they shot it in like one location basically. And he was a young father and a husband when he started this movie. Year 2 of making this movie, him and his wife got divorced. And he's just like, no, that didn't have anything to do with the movie, which is so funny because because it definitely did. Like, this is about being a young dad, and also
Right.
his daughter Jennifer, who was his first daughter, she was born with club feet. So she says in an interview, like for TV or something that she did in something, she says that she thinks that she is the inspiration for the baby, and like this is an inspiration, like his life was an inspiration for this movie. And David Lynch like responds in this interview, and he's like, people can interpret it however they want, like about his own daughter, which I think is just so funny. Like it's pretty much reflecting his life, but he doesn't like to absolutely comment on that. And he says in the interview why he doesn't like to, because he wants people to curate their own thoughts about stuff. And it's been a big thing. Obviously he's dead now, but it's been a big thing his entire career. Everyone has asked him, how did you make this baby? Because it's the 70s. This is a very incredible feat for an animatronic or a puppet or whatever. Like, it looks really good. And no, you don't
know.
think so?
It looks like a paper mache sperm baby.
Well, the way it moves, I think, is really interesting. And
It's got
like
a little hand on the other side going like this.
and and it's like slimy and gross. Like, it's so strange. But he, the interviewer asks him, and he goes, no, I'm not going to reveal that. And the interviewer's like, why don't you talk about that? And he's like, I don't want to reveal the magic of my movies. And he cites an example of Sunset Boulevard. And he's like, when I found out that the mansion in Sunset Boulevard wasn't actually on Sunset Boulevard, it like almost ruined the whole movie for me, because like, you don't want to know something like that. You want to imagine, oh yeah, that house is on Sunset Boulevard because it was put to film and I like the film, and
Right.
so that's why he won't reveal how the baby was made.
Do you remember
But-
That
that
was
mansion?
the same. That was
Yeah,
like
you remember
the
that,
same
right, Max?
experience that I had watching Sunset
Right.
Boulevard,
Yeah.
which
Right.
was kind of disappointing, but it's a fantastic film.
Which character's house was it in Sunset Boulevard that was the mansion?
Mr. Sunset.
Yes.
Right.
Correct. Right. I thought it was so funny reading this interview, and he was talking about Sunset Boulevard, and I was like, I can't wait to mention this. But yeah, so with all that said, that's just some trivia. With all that said, this is my third time watching this. The first time was in high school.
Isn't David Lynch kind of a confirmed bachelor? Did he ever get remarried? Did he have like family life? I get the sense in my head that he like lived in an apartment alone and just chain smoked.
Well, so after he got divorced during this movie, he said that him and his ex-wife are good friends. They say it was very amicable. He lived where they shot the movie. He had a bed in the stables that they shot the movie in.
I feel like watching this movie, it was autobiographical of David Lynch. Like I got the strong feeling that like this is exactly how David Lynch saw family life.
I mean, he wouldn't admit it in the interview because that's just not how but it is. Like in my head.
He also literally said that this is his most spiritual film. Mm-hmm. And, gave no elaboration on purpose, but like if you look at it through the lens of David Lynch says this is his most spiritual film, which probably you could say is the film closest to him.
Right.
Like I watched it and I was like, oh yeah, David Lynch just feels completely disgusted by traditional family life and
he's been
would
married...
rather like be directed by his art and chain smoke in a apartment
the
alone.
Ending definitely does,
but I don't know enough about him. That was just my guess.
Ending does give that vibe about family life, but I think throughout the movie you can kind of take a different approach to where it's like, yeah, every new father feels this way at some point.
Yeah.
Like it's very relatable. It's not all just like hating your family or like wanting a different life. It's more just like, I cannot believe the amount of responsibility that's been heaped upon my shoulders.
Right. That
I feel like I cannot take care of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he had 4 wives and he has 4 kids. And one of his kids is in Fire Walk with Me, the little boy. He's also in Twin Peaks. He looks exactly like David Lynch. But yeah, I mean, he dated like everyone. Like he dated Isabella Rossellini. He found muses in a lot of his female characters, and like would write movies for them and stuff. Like he was like a bachelor.
It feels like a strong theme in his movies of having a committed relationship, like a token committed relationship, and then having some like
women on the side or
like temptress, you know. I mean, I just watched Blue Velvet last month, and
you did?
Blue Velvet, Fire Walk with Me, this movie,
Mulholland Drive.
All of them have like an element of, oh, I'd rather fuck this person. and
I mean, that's probably how most of I don't know,
I mean, it's not completely, no, that is a part of having a dick and balls and testosterone is you want to use it on everyone.
He had that autistic riz, like he just he pulled, like he really pulled, like it's incredible. And honestly, like if I was young, 100%. If I was young when he was young, yes. Like,
are you talking about David Lynch or Henry? Because Henry
David
also
Lynch
has some sort of autistic riz.
Well, that's David Lynch. Like I see Henry as David Lynch. Like characters that have like this autistic riz and have these like beautiful women just flocking to him. Like that's how I imagine David Lynch's life was. Like he was just like, this is who I am, and women were like, I fucking love this. And it's evident. Like Isabella Rossellini is one of the most beautiful women who's ever lived on Earth, and they were in a relationship for a long time. But yeah, when he was young, he was sexy.
Yeah, pull up a young picture.
Yeah. I have a young picture.
You're muted, Bryce. Bryce, you're still muted.
Look at him.
Yeah, I mean, it's like he modeled his hairstyle for most of his life after Henry. You know, it's. I mean, because the photo that you showed me before, Sydney, was like he had long, flowing locks.
He had a great head of hair. Are you kidding? Yeah, here.
Yeah. That's
Cute.
David Lynch.
Okay, so let me give my review of the movie. This is my third time seeing it. The first time was in high school after I watched Twin Peaks, and I thought I was putting on the Elephant Man, and I got really confused when I was watching it. I was like, why doesn't he have a fucked up face? Like I was so like I was so confused. I watched like the whole movie, and I was like, that wasn't the Elephant Man.
Sydney only looks at the first letter on the box of the film and is like, oh, this is good.
But I didn't really.
I don't need to read the rest of it, hasn't he?
I didn't really love it when I was in high school, and then I watched it again a few years ago, and I was like, okay, I like this better now, and I watched it this time, and I was like, all right, like, this is a goated movie. Like, I think it's an incredible feat for a first feature film. It really is evident how much time and effort he put into it, and... Also, I told you he got divorced in year 2 of making this movie. He got remarried by the time it was over, by the time he finished it, which I think is hilarious. And yeah, I think a lot of his work has a central theme of like letting go and how hard it is to let go of like past trauma or your hangups or something like that. And I think that's what I took away from this because I'm not a parent. So I don't really have that relation to like Henry in that way, but I do have that relation to in a way that Henry is like him and Mary are over and he, you know, hasn't thought about her. He ripped up her picture. Like we saw the ripped up picture before he went to go see her again. He doesn't, you know, that's done with. He's trying to get with his neighbor. Like he has a whole life ahead of him, and it kind of sets him back when Mary's like, "Just kidding, I had a child." I think they think it's a kid, and he's like, "What?" And then he gets left alone with it, and like it's just so difficult for him to be able to take care of it, to process it, like all of that stuff. And like when it culminates in the end, I kind of saw it as something like, you know, he finally let go of this like past thing that he had, like that. I don't know. It kind of resembled like trauma for me, but I mean, there's so many ways to interpret his work, and that's the beauty of him that's the beauty of him as a filmmaker, in my opinion, is that he never reveals the true meaning to him. He wants people to interpret it in the way that they want to, and I like that. It's based on emotion and not like specific like, oh, and this is what happens in Star Wars, and this means that, and this means that. Like, that's not what he's doing, and I really love that.
Hey, don't you dare besmirch Star Wars.
No, I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
I will go wild on
Listen,
Sydney.
I love Dune.
Star Wars is my David Lynch.
I'm like
Never seen it.
Yeah, I've seen like one Star Wars movie, so
no, I've actually seen all the Star Wars movies. Sydney, that's insane.
No, I'm saying like those are movies where you like there's direct interpretations of them. Oh, this happens because
How would you
this
know?
happened.
You've only seen one of them.
Well, because I know what kind of movie it is.
I
Like,
don't know. I mean,
Oh,
there's many ways to interpret when Luke fights Vader on Dantooine.
Okay.
It has a lot of mythological imagery in it.
Listen,
Sure.
all
But
I
don't
know
think you
is
appreciate it.
somehow Palpatine returned.
Right.
But like it's just like it's like, okay, I'll compare it to like Dune. It's like Dune, where I've read 4 of the books, like I know all the lore, so when I'm watching it, I'm like, this happens because this happens and this happens and all that. So it's not, his movies aren't like that. They're more like, how do you feel when you watch it? And
Yeah.
he explains in this interview too, where he's like people can watch this and hate it the first time and watch it again 10 years later under different circumstances and have gone through different things and love it that time. And that's what he loves about movies in general. And I agree with him. And yeah, so I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. I really fucking loved watching it again. It was
Not
really
a 10
fun.
out of 10?
No, this isn't my favorite.
Where does it
Lynch.
where does it lose a point?
I think it's because it's his first movie that you kind of just see him setting up like what his career is going to look like and what kind of movies that he's going to make. And I don't think every idea is like certainly like 100% fleshed out. Like Mulholland Drive is a 10 out of 10 for me. Like that's where he really gets his like, he's like, here it is. This, I mean, it's just, I mean, I have to have a ranking system for all of his movies. I've seen all of them. So it can't, not every one of them can be the best, but I love this movie. I love it. Okay. That's my spiel.
Film nerds are going to love this review. Alrighty. But you know who's not going to love this review? Anyone who's not subscribed to our Patreon, because bam, you're in the mid-roll, baby. If you're listening to these commercials, you should know that you do not have to. You could go over to patreon.com/horrormovietalk and you can sign up for ad-free content. Guys, the ad-free content comes early. Sometimes. I still have an episode that I'm supposed to post, and sorry about that, but I'm going to post it, I promise. Also go to horrormovietalk.com/shop to pick up your merch. I would like to see more people wearing the merch. I would also like to see Bryce sending the merch to the people who buy it. Yes, Bryce, I'm calling you out. Bryce is holding someone's merch ransom. Check out our resident
I
artist.
really meant to send that yesterday, and then I didn't.
You did not, dude. For weeks and weeks, you've been saying that. That poor man gave you money, and now you're just holding
Okay, again,
his
I'm going to
stuff.
defend myself. He did get the shirt. He did get the it's a hoodie. He did get it. He just sent it to me to sign and then to send it off to you guys to sign.
Like 3 months ago.
And that's where he went wrong. Just don't send me things expecting me to go to the post office and send them to you. Like this is what we've learned. You know, it's a lesson that we're actively learning, and I promise it will get in the mail this week.
You're unemployed, dude. Just go to the post office one time.
You know what, Max?
I've been to the post office since you got that hoodie.
I haven't been to the post office for 5 years.
Why?
Why would I ever go to the post office?
Sometimes you gotta send something.
I've been to the post office like twice in the past year.
I just don't. If I had to send something to someone, I would, even if I had it in my hands, I would just go to Amazon and buy it and have Amazon send it to him.
You know, I should have just gave the guy my address because it would have been done by now. Because Bryce should have been the last one. Because then all he would have to do is send it off.
Right.
Well, he still wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I
but
know.
Yes, now we are behind schedule for sure.
All right, let's continue on with the midroll.
We have an artist named Dustin. Dustin is great. We love Dustin Goebel. Dustin Goebel can be found on Instagram at DGOEBEL00. That's DGoebel00. You can hit him up and ask him for commissions, and you can possibly get something really cool out of that exchange. So go pay him money and get some artwork. Tell him HMT sent you. Again, if you wanted to call into the show, call 682-253-4468. I'm going to say it a little slower for those who are on 2x speed. 682-253-4468. Thanks again for listening. Really, thank you for listening to this mid-roll. It pays us money. Let's get into spoilers.
Guys, look at my tattoo.
It is a cool tattoo.
Isn't
I think it's really cool. How much did that cost?
$400.
It's actually not that bad. I thought it would have been more.
Yeah, it took like 3.5 hours, so I was like, that's a pretty good like hourly rate.
Did you tip?
Oh, I tipped a lot. I tipped so much he followed me back on Instagram.
There may be other reasons why he would follow you on Instagram, but the beginning of this movie is my least favorite part about this movie. I think it's so long and drawn out, and I don't know what it means.
We have the diseased man pulling the pulling the levers. We have the puddle with the baby, and we have the meteor.
Yeah.
Um,
that conception? It
I
could
would
be.
I
could
would
be
say
conception.
so, because at the end of the movie he like destroys the meteor, right? So it's like this. I don't
Oh,
know.
he got snipped. Oh, I get the movie now.
Well, I saw it as like, I mean, like I said in my review, I saw it as like he like births this thing that like fucks up his life and cock blocks him and like makes this crazy lady come back into his life that he doesn't want and all this stuff. And so at the end, when he kills it, like the meteor is destroyed. So like he kind of puts the past behind him and gets to move on. That's how I saw it.
Why does the sperm come out of his mouth? Did he self?
I'm not sure.
And
Really,
you gotta spit it out.
I don't know. Because
Yeah,
later
there's a lot of random wormies in this movie.
yeah,
There's like,
later on the sperms come out of her while she's sleeping, and he's like pulling them out and throwing them at the wall.
yeah. Yeah, I feel
She
like
got bad seed. She has bad seed.
and there's little tiny wormies like crawling out of him or crawling up the wall and going into the meteor. Yeah,
You know
there's
it's
lots
good
of
spermy when it sticks to the wall. You can throw it.
yeah.
You know, it was interesting because you know how in the chicken scene, we'll get more into this, but in the chicken scene, like when he goes to like cut it, it like starts like bleeding or like there's like a weird like goo coming out of it. And then later on when he kills the baby, the same color sort of goo comes out of the baby. And when the dad says, "Oh, these are new man-made chickens. They're smaller than regular chickens." I saw it as like, "Oh, the baby is like man-made too." And I saw a connection between the chicken
Every
and the
baby is man-made.
Yeah.
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 So you're saying
But, like,
the dad fucked
manufactured.
the chicken.
Like they're like manufactured. Like this baby was a manufactured like manifestation of like trauma and like the horrors of being a young man. That's kind of
I gotta
what I
say,
saw.
Sydney, everyone can interpret it differently, but I don't think this movie's about trauma.
Okay. I mean,
I
it's
just
definitely
don't-
about fatherhood.
I just don't see it that way.
Yeah.
Do you want to fight for that position, or do you want to?
No, I appreciate that you guys had different types of viewings with it because that's what it's all about. That's what movies are about. Like, just take what you need from it, you know?
No, that's fair. What did the levers mean? What do they do? Because here's the thing: there's 3 levers. The first one he pulls easily. The spermy flies through the air, and the second one he struggles with, but he eventually gets it down. And then the third one, we find out that he's been pulling, I guess, the whole movie because it's like sparking and he can't get it. And he's like fighting it. It's like his who is that guy? Sisyphus pushing the rock.
Yeah.
He always
I don't
pulls
know.
the lever.
I
but he
interpreted
can-
that as kind of there's external because I feel it's attached to Henry's life and circumstances that happened to Henry. So I feel it's like a representation of the external world or society or circumstances being imposed on him, and then in the end of the movie, when the Clayface guy that's pulling the levers, he can't move them back, or he can't manipulate the levers like he did before because Henry's taking control of his own life and isn't being controlled anymore.
I like that.
That's a good interpretation.
You know how the lady in the radiator has a weird chipmunk cheeks?
Jowls.
I think she's beautiful.
Yeah, so in the interview,
Right, stop objectifying women.
I think
Okay,
all women are beautiful.
we just had an episode where everyone flamed us for talking about the topic of the movie, which was women.
oh
We
my
can't
God,
go down
calm
that route
down.
again.
But in in the interview that he did, he says, "Oh, well, she had a lot of acne scars as a kid, so she cakes on her makeup." That's what he said. That's why she looks like that. I thought that was so interesting. I was like, "What?" I was like, "That's so weird." Like that's crazy.
Yeah, it's not just scarring. It's literally like made her face into a moon. It's literally like just
In heaven, everything is fine.
I was singing that song all day yesterday.
It's a good song. David Lynch wrote it and made it.
In heaven.
I like when she's dancing on the stage and the gooey sperms start falling and she just starts stomping on them and laughing. I was like, whoa. Crazy.
See, that's to show that she's on the pill.
So I mean,
Right?
here's one
Maybe,
way,
I
one
don't
thing
know.
that we could like give our interpretations of. So there's two women in this movie that Henry is attracted to, other than his spouse. So he's being tempted by the next door neighbor, which is more of a traditional.
Oh, she is bad.
What would you call it? Femme fatale.
The mistress.
Mistress. And then there's the woman in the radiator that looks like some kind of human animal hybrid.
Like she just won the contest of who can stuff the most marshmallows in their cheeks.
Right. She's world champion all around chubby bunny
Shout out.
player. Yeah, so what do you think those two representations of, temptation of another woman, what do those represent, do you think?
I don't think that he is attracted to the woman in the radiator in like a traditional sense. I think he's attracted to escaping, and she gives him a way to escape his responsibilities in his like real life, because like she's obviously not real. Like there's not a woman in his radiator. So he gets to like,
In this world, maybe there is.
well, maybe,
I mean,
but like
there's
I take
weird
a literalist
sperm-
view of this movie, actually.
But like the thing is like he, like there's a time where he's like seeing her and then he wakes up, so it's like almost like he dreams her and dreams are an escape. So like at the end when he finally gets to like be with her, he's like finally escaping his responsibilities and escaping this life that he doesn't want. And so I kind of see her as just a manifestation. Dude,
Sorry.
You're such a boomer. Oh
like
my
you
gosh.
do this all the time. Like, what is that noise? Your keyboard has disconnected.
I hit a key on my keyboard and did that.
Scroll lock. But yeah, I just kind of see her as like this manifestation of escapism, and so he doesn't. I don't think he's like attracted to her, but he's attracted to a life where he doesn't have to take care of anyone but himself, or barely even take care of himself. Like he's on vacation from work. Why? We have no idea.
I love when they ask him what he does for work and he says, "Oh, I'm on vacation." Like that answers any kind of question.
And the mom is like, "Well, what did you do before that vacation?" like, please answer. The in-law
Yeah.
scene is very strange.
I like it a lot, actually. That's probably one of my favorite scenes. So yeah, he walks home with like groceries, quote unquote. He's got one bag, and it's very small. And he is walking into his apartment, and his neighbor comes out and says, "Hey, someone actually called for you. Their name was Mary, and they invited you to dinner." And he's troubled about this because Mary is his girlfriend, who I guess he hasn't seen in like 5 or 6 months or something like that.
I missed that part. I didn't know that they had broken up.
Well, because he like makes a face. He's like, "Really? She called?" And then he pulls out the ripped up picture of her. So
Yeah, well, and when he shows up, she's like, "You're late." And he's like, "I didn't even think you wanted me here."
yeah,
So,
like he's like, "Where have you been? Like I haven't seen you."
and when they bring up the baby, he says like it hasn't been that long, as like it hasn't been 9 months. But we can
Did
assume
they
that
say
it's
6
been-
months at some point?
No, they didn't
It's
say how
just
many months, but you
assumed,
can
I guess.
assume that.
Because I assumed it was like they just broke up, kind of thing, or he was just like, and
Well, she
so
had to
when
have
he
had a
said like
baby.
that's impossible, like he was incredulous. I thought it was like, didn't we just have sex like a week ago or something like that?
I mean, that could
That's
be
where my
the
head went.
case.
Who knows? But it's definitely not the traditional 9 months like baby time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
I
when
mean, they say
said premature.
They say explicitly that it's a premature baby.
See, when they said premature, my mind immediately jumped to like 6 to 8 months or whatever.
I think the
6 to 8 months
expression-
actually looks like a baby.
I think the
Well, yeah.
expression on his face when his neighbor says Mary called and he's like fully shocked means it's been at least a few months. Like,
Yeah,
like
fair
he
enough.
hasn't seen this woman, you know. But
Then he goes over for little chicken. And little chicken is one of my favorite meals. Don't doubt little chicken till you try it. It
they
tastes
just
just
look like
baked
quail.
chicken. Wait, why do they have to cut the little chicken?
I think it's just David Lynch has a very weird sense of humor, and for the dad to be like, you should carve the chicken, and then he's just holding a knife and he's staring at this chicken that like is a one person portion size chicken. He's like the face he makes is like really confused, and so that's just like the David Lynch sense of humor treatment. Like, it's like, how the fuck am I gonna carve this chicken? I can eat this whole thing, you know?
Yeah.
And the chicken starts moving its legs like this. So gross.
Yeah, I think this whole scene, the in-law scene, is very much a humorous scene, and it is more of David Lynch's sense of humor, which is just weird people, awkward situations, you know, the mom going behind the decrepit grandma and like moving her arms to toss the salad for some reason. You're like, yeah, she's helping. And then
I mean, it's
the
like
dad being like, what was it? And he like, look at my knees. And comes out from behind the table and he's like,
like,
mom's
I'm
like,
I'm the pipe guy. That's all I do. I do pipes. And he gets so mad about it that like there's like, I really like that scene because he's so passionate about like how he's fixed all these pipes all over the town, and then like there's like a really industrial noise behind him, and it kind of like it accentuates how passionate he is about his job. And like Henry's like, what the fuck is going on? Like
The best line from the dad is when he looks at Henry and he goes, "So, Henry, what do you know?" He's like, "What do I know?"
not much.
not much, sir.
It's so good. I love that.
And I like
I'm
how
gonna start
he
asking
stays
people that.
he stays smiling at Henry while like the mom and Mary go into the kitchen. They come out. Mary is bawling her eyes out, like hyperventilating, sobbing, and the dad's looking at Henry like this. Like, it's so weird.
It really is like, in terms of like conveying the feeling of going to your in-laws for the first time, it is accurate. Like, this is the level of just, why are these people so weird and different from my family? And what are the rules here? What the fuck is going on? What are
You
all
wanna
these
hear
relationships?
What I did the first time I met my in-laws?
Yes.
So my father-in-law is a hunter, and he has all
That's
his
his job?
trophies. No, it's not his job. He just does it.
Okay.
I don't think you can have hunting as your job. Can you?
I don't know.
Anyways, he has his trophies on his wall. One of them is an elk.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know animals or hunting.
That's a nice
or
deer, sir.
guy stuff. Well, hey, it's not far off from what I said. I asked him if he killed that moose himself.
That's awesome.
That's great. What did he must have been like, Jesus Christ, can come out this guy. Like,
Yeah, they still laugh about that.
Look at all these chickens.
it's funny that the girl is named Mary in this movie because after him and his first wife got divorced, he married two different Marys separately. So yeah, thought that was interesting. That's it.
I was gonna say. Oh, like while watching this movie, and I was like texting Sydney to make them worry
Click.
about my take on Eraserhead, and to be honest, like I'm like, what's the big deal? This is like Meet the Parents. There's a couple movies that it reminds me of, like in terms of vibe and communicating what the experience of this stage in life is. This is basically like an experimental version of Meet the Parents combined with The Graduate, which is very much like being in limbo between adolescence and adulthood and having all these responsibilities and no capacity to accept them graciously. and that'd be an interesting trio of movies to watch. Watch Eraserhead, then The Graduate, and then Meet the Parents.
Bryce, didn't you say that you had a word that you came up with that described?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, what is that?
Oh my word. So a lot of these types of movies, not necessarily Eraserhead, but more avant-garde or experimental directors, when it goes past the sweet spot, we have a word twee, which is, just so,
Zooey Deschanel is twee. Yes.
Zooey Deschanel, you could describe like Wes Anderson as twee.
Yes.
It's just very affected, very like particular, very cutesy.
A male and female music group that uses ukuleles only.
Right.
Twee. Yes.
And I get the same reaction as the sense of twee with avant-garde and experimental stuff. And so I feel like we should have a word for that. And my word is quee. It's so quee.
Quee.
So it's like combination of like queer or quirky with twee. Like it's just, I get it. It's a particular thing, but to me, it's affected. It's like, it's affected quirkiness or weirdness is quee for me.
I like
so I'm
it.
going to adopt that word. And I'm going to put it out there. Everyone start using quee.
Stop
I'll
trying to
start
make
using
fetch
quee.
happen. It's never going to happen.
Oh, fetch
Admit it. It's a useful word. Isn't that a useful word that you could?
I like it.
Yeah.
I have two more things of trivia from this interview. Stanley Kubrick said this was his favorite movie. Which I thought was really cool because David Lynch is like, this was the highest compliment I could have ever been paid because he's like, most of his movies are in my top 10. Like, I couldn't believe that he said that about me. And then the interviewer asks him after that, there are two different cinematographers on this. And he's like, why did you switch like halfway through? And what happened was, camera and lighting. So it was Herb Cardwell and then Frederick Elms did like the rest of the movie. And he was like, what happened there? Herb Caldwell just died. One day, he was always late for everything. So they weren't like super stressed out about it. But then it got a little bit later and they called the hotel and they were like, where is he? They go in his room. He's dead in his bed. And they did 2 autopsies on him and could not figure out why he died. And so they got a new.
It was the curse of Eraserhead.
It was just like, I thought that was like the way he
and
told
David
the story.
Lynch got away with it.
I just thought that was like so weird because he does this, like, he talks about Herb like in a very like, he really loved him as a cinematographer. And then he was just like, yeah, one day he just died. And then we had to get a new guy. Like, this movie took so fucking long that people died while making it. Like, what?
You never know when people are gonna die. I mean, that can happen to this podcast.
Don't say that.
One day, one of us just dies, and we got to find a replacement.
One day, one of us will die. One day, all of us will die.
Yeah, we won't be
All
doing
the more
podcast
reason to
that day.
take care of our health. So join me on my sobriety journey from nicotine. Day 6.
Hey,
You know?
I ate that turnip yesterday.
Why did you eat a turnip? Like that is just.
It was snack.
But what do you mean?
Did you just eat it raw? You just ate a raw turnip?
Mhm.
That's so bizarre.
That is. I don't think I've ever had a turnip before.
It was snack.
What do you mean it was snack?
We were having a group text conversation about Max just never eating fruits or vegetables just because he's not used to it, and so we were encouraging him, and he's just gone on the weird. He just jumped into the deep end.
Like
He's
I ate a turnip.
Had the weirdest fruits and vegetables. Did you get the turnip from school?
Yes, it was snack.
Why?
Okay, so
Every day they bring in a new snack, and they want to have it be different every day. So there's lots of different fruits and vegetables they bring in. Like I said earlier this week, I had an orange that was this big, and you're supposed to eat it with the skin.
What the fuck are you
and
talking
so I just popped it in my mouth and crunched it, and it was actually really good.
Because like
And I had
turnips are like you can make them into like a mash, like a
Right.
mashed potato kind of thing.
Well,
Which
the day before was butternut squash, but I didn't have that. That sounded icky.
Oh my god, butternut squash is really good though. Like it's really.
I hope they
good.
cooked it.
Yeah, but not raw.
No, it's always raw.
What?
It's always raw.
What are you
That's
talking
wild.
about? You can't have a squash raw. That's fucking nasty.
Yeah.
I don't even
That's
think you're
wild.
supposed to eat it like that.
No, you can.
Do they just like serve potatoes raw?
I haven't had potato.
Raw
You've never
potatoes are
had a
just-
potato?
No, I've had a potato.
I
They've
was
never.
gonna say, I'm like, Jesus Christ!
They've
You never had a
raw
French
potato
fry,
for
you
snack.
freak. All right, back to the influence of this movie.
Yeah, there's too much talk
I've
in this
got
podcast.
IMDb
Too much
up
talking.
trivia on here, and it talks about Stanley Kubrick. He specifically screened this movie when preparing for The Shining to get the crew in the mood, which is interesting because you could see a little bit of the fingerprints of Eraserhead in The Shining,
You
where
can.
like Jack Torrance is not really taking it well. The responsibilities of fatherhood is, saying it lightly.
Correct. So we gotta kind of get through this movie because we still gotta get to horror movie horrors. So yeah, they bring the baby. Wow, we haven't even really gotten to the baby. They bring the baby home from the hospital, and it is a worm thing.
It's like a head wrapped, and then its body is wrapped in bandages. But before then, when he's at the parents' house, the mom corners him and is like, "Did you have sex with my daughter?" And he's like, "That's none of your business." Well, I love her. Like, he's making all these excuses, and she's like, "Just tell me." And then she starts licking him, which I don't know how you interpret that. But then Mary comes over and is like, "Mom, stop." It's like, what the fuck? And then he's like, yes, we did have sex. And she's like, okay, well, there's a baby and it's yours then. And he's like, what? Why is there a
It's an
baby?
intimidation tactic, and honestly, it's a powerful one. Like if you're like trying to corner someone and get some information out of them, and then you just start going, like, just start licking their neck.
It's like when you see like those fight videos and like two dudes are about to fight and one of them just like strips naked and the other guy's like, I'm not doing this. I am not doing this. Like, I can see it. But yeah, they bring the baby home and it's really weird. And the first thing we see is Mary feeding it, which is like really interesting because if a baby is premature, I don't think you can feed it like jam out of a fucking glass.
No.
Like,
Probably not.
But it's
Maybe
not really a
it's been
baby.
a while. Maybe they've had the baby for like a year at this point. He doesn't really say.
yeah.
So I've seen a lot of like synopses of Eraserhead, and it all talks about how grating and how like hysterical this baby is all the time. To be honest,
It's just like
It's
a regular baby.
the baby
No,
isn't. It's just a kind of nice, pleasant like complaining, in terms
It's
of like
almost
having
like cooing, and they're like,
yeah.
"Oh, make it stop," and it's like,
Yeah, because it's just like you're like, I can't take it, and you like run away. It's like this is just cute baby noises. Just Just feed it. Change its diaper. What's the problem?
I think Mary gets like more frustrated with it than Henry does, obviously, because Mary's like, I can't stand this. I need to leave. And, you know, you could interpret that as like the pressures of motherhood, how like Henry gets to go out all day and do whatever the fuck he does. And then like she's home all day with the baby. And that's really difficult. That's really hard on women. And like, especially when you weren't expecting it, and especially when you're forced into this marriage, and it's like the pressure gets to her, and she leaves, and she comes back again, but then she leaves for good. From what we see. And it's really sad, because then it's like, okay, well now Henry's like, I have to be on permanent vacation, and he wants to fuck his neighbor, and he can barely get to do that because the baby's there. And it's just like, it's like just a whole movie about him not being able to have sex how he wants to have sex, because either he gets a weird alien baby out of it, or like he goes into a milk vortex with the woman. Like, I don't know. Like, it's this poor guy.
Sydney, I gotta say, I don't think that was milk.
Well, yeah.
That was
What was it?
Cum.
That was a cum vortex.
Cum vortex.
Drowning.
Yeah, I mean, I again, this is another like representation of just male anxiety, where there's actually, like what Cindy was describing. You know, there's a bit of inequality in society around like taking responsibility for babies, and some of it's built in, since the woman literally is the dispenser of food herself. But the interpretation of so there's real like burden to women, and it is overwhelming, and a lot of the time they're like, well, I'm speaking from personal experience, just being like, I'm sick of it, you take more responsibility, husband, you know, step in, and then I gotta go, and then leaves you alone. But in the portrayal in this movie, it's much more like arbitrary and selfish the way it's portrayed with the wife, because she's not, you know, it's not portrayed that way. It feels more like she's just abandoning all responsibility and putting it on Henry, which is how a man can feel about that in the moment, where it's like, hey, wait a minute, no, I like not having to wake up and feed the baby.
Well, they never really show them taking care of the baby, except for that one scene where she's like trying to feed it, and it's
she feeds it once, and then it's like, Jesus, just shut up.
Well,
But,
like
like,
Max
the hardest-
said, we don't know how long it's been. It could have been like a year, and like it could have been a while. It at least wasn't like the day after, like, because they obviously they got married, like at some point. So it's like been a little while, and I think it's really funny when she is laying awake and he comes home, and she's like, she cannot sleep because the baby is just making noises, and this is, you know, her reality, and he can fall right to sleep. He falls right to sleep, and she keeps getting up, and she screams at the baby. She's so sick of it, and she keeps waking him up, and he's just like, why is she like, it's so funny. And then the scene where she's trying to pull the luggage out from under the bed, I always forget when I watch this. I'm like, what is she doing? She's like pushing the bed. Like, what is she doing? And then finally the luggage comes out from underneath. Really funny.
Right.
Really funny.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I did not understand that. I was
No,
like,
that felt
she
like
doing?
that was one of those like, okay, this seems arbitrary and dumb, but it's actually just kind of an awkwardly shot scene. Because you could have, if it was shot at a different angle, it would have been instantly understandable what was going on. But from the view of Henry, it's just like her face mashed into the bars of the bed, just like, which is a great image. Yeah, I like that.
There's a really good jump scare in this movie. One jump scare, I would say, where, like, you know, it flashes forward and he's taking care of the baby alone, and he puts a thermometer in the baby's mouth, and the thermometer reads normal, and he's like, okay. So he turns around, and then flash, boom, the baby is so sick, and then he goes, oh,
Right.
you are sick. And it's really jarring, but it's also,
Right.
I feel like it's so real. Like I mean, I'm not a parent, but I don't know if you guys can like speak to it, but like being like, oh, I think my kid's sick. Oh, I guess it's not sick. And then 2 seconds later, it's like the sickest baby you've ever seen. Like,
I actually that feels very dream logic to me, because I don't know how your guys' dreams are, but like I'll be doing something and I'll be like, wait, did I do this? Yeah, I guess I did it right. Oh no, now I gotta do
Right,
it.
yeah.
Like, so, but do you guys want to a related story about babies?
Sure. I've got one too.
I thought I killed my daughter a week ago.
oh my God.
Oh,
It was the most horrifying thing I've ever experienced in my entire life.
What happened?
You gave her
So
peanut butter.
no, I didn't give
Give
her
her
peanut butter.
shellfish.
So, for context, she's starting to be able to move around a lot more. But she's still on the cusp of it, so she can't crawl. And the entire time we've had her, she's been stationary. Like, she doesn't move. She's just starting to learn how to, like, wiggle and, like, scoot a little bit. So, we're getting her ready for bed at my grandma's house, because that's where we're staying for the weekend. And I put her in the middle of the bed, which is a very common thing. We do this all the time. We put her in the middle of the bed so that I can like plug in her sound machine, and like Keiko is setting up the bassinet.
Uh-huh.
And we look over just in time to see our baby flopping off the bed face first, diving towards the ground, smacks her head, starts screaming bloody murder. We're obviously horrified. Like, this is the scariest thing that's ever happened to us. And so we're taking care of her. It takes us forever to get her to calm down. And she was so tired. We had her up past her bedtime because we were visiting my parents. And so she's exhausted. And so she like falls asleep. And we're calling the doctor on our phone being like, hey, like she hit her head. Like, should we be worried? And they're like, well, just go in there and like move her around a bit, see if she wakes up. And if she doesn't wake up easily, then you have a problem. But if she wakes up, then you're fine.
Oh my God.
And so I go in there. Oh my gosh, this is the worst part. I like shake her a little bit. Nothing.
Oh,
I
no.
pick up her leg, drop it, flump. And I'm like, and this is the worst part. I pick her up and I'm kind of like shaking her a little bit, just ragdolling like this. I was like, she's dead. She's dead. She's 100% dead. And then all of a sudden she wakes up and starts crying and is like, what are you doing? I was sleeping. And then the next day she was completely fine. And
Yeah.
it's been like over a week, so she's
Yeah.
fine. But
See, that's the thing is if your baby, I know this for a fact, if your baby hits its head and it immediately starts crying, it's fine. If it doesn't cry when it hits its head, like hard, like, it, you know, like not like a little bump and then like keeps
If
walking.
it doesn't, you have a stupid baby.
If it doesn't cry, then there's something wrong. That's so scary though. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Babies are the weirdest thing. It's like you have this fear because they're so fragile, and like when you hold it at first when it's a newborn, you're like, I feel like it's gonna crack its neck if I don't hold it right. It's gonna just flop and just kill itself. And granted, babies do try to kill themselves relatively often, but in reality, they're pretty sturdy. Like they're not immediately going to die if they get dropped by a foot, or whatever, lightly kicked across a room. But like the things that was a joke, by the way. The things that like kill babies when they're young is usually just freak accidents or
blankets
or just accidents where it's like, oh, I mean, the whole thing with the, what's it called? Sudden infant death syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Like most of that is literally just people accidentally rolling over on their baby. They're just literally accidentally suffocated their baby by putting a blanket in there that was too fluffy or sleeping with the baby. And it's like, yeah, it's a very big deal. Like that, and that's why there's a lot of public health things where it's like, don't shake the baby, don't sleep in the same bed as the baby. Don't put a blanket in the crib because
honestly, if you can avoid doing those 3 things, the baby will be fine.
Right.
My dad and my stepmom slept with the baby the whole time. She's alive.
I mean, most of the time it's
But
going to
even
be fine.
even
but
all
it's
of
the
those
one time that
things,
it's not. You
yeah.
know?
yeah, even all those things are 99% of the time fine.
Like, you really shouldn't shake a baby, though. Like, that's probably the biggest one. Like, you really shouldn't just, like, take a newborn and go, "Rrr!" Like, yeah, like, let's not.
I mean, you can shake it a little, but there's
You can
Well,
bounce it.
Okay, that's actually, this is a interesting point of conversation because they tell you don't shake the baby, but they don't tell you how to not shake the baby.
right.
Because you're doing things with the baby all the time that can kind of be considered shaking.
Like, you're walking around, you're
Yeah,
cooking,
if you have
yeah.
OCD and you have a baby and you have like the what's it called, like scrupulosity or like just like compliance OCD, it must be a nightmare because like I can't shake my baby, but how am I going to put it in a car seat? You got to jostle a baby all the time because they're constantly
even when you're just playing with the baby, like you're trying to have fun with it, the baby's laughing and smiling, and you like move them too fast and you're like, oh my gosh, should I just shake my baby? Like,
right.
My dad
They
used
don't
to
tell
throw
you.
me up in the air when I was a baby, like super, like almost
Right.
hitting the ceiling, and I'm fine.
Yeah, that's completely normal.
Yeah.
What they're literally telling you not to do is to not take a baby and go it's literally just don't shake the baby like a fucking paint can. That's what they're telling you not to do.
Don't
And
shake
you're
it like a
like-
protein shake, like.
Right. Don't be like but because what they're trying to like and the introduction to it, like when you're getting the training, I don't know if it was true for you, Max, but they had us, it was required that we viewed this DVD called Purple Crying, and it's basically says babies cry, and sometimes some babies cry a lot for no apparent reason. You know, it's colic or whatever. It's just basically there's lots of different words for my baby cries all the time and it's driving me insane. And it just very gently and very directly tells you don't shake the baby. Like when the baby is crying and keeping you up for 3 nights in a row, don't shake it. Because what happens is you have a real human reaction to something causing you misery and despair over the long course of days that you kind of want to shake the baby. Like as rational and loving as you are toward your baby, there will be times then you want to fucking wring that baby's neck. And
Well,
that's
it's
normal.
like
You just have to be
anything, like-
told, don't shake it. Don't wring your baby's neck. It's as simple as that. But like, yeah, jostling your baby is a normal thing. Sleeping with your baby, it will happen. You will fall asleep holding your baby. Like you
We did
will
it
fall
for a
asleep next to the
while.
baby.
because
And-
it's easier.
Yeah, and having a blanket in the crib 99% of the time, it's fine. Like most babies through history have probably been in a crib with a blanket. But
Yeah, you really don't have to do that though anymore because they have like really warm sleep sacks
Right.
that are
Right.
like perfectly safe. You put them in one of those, they don't need a blanket. So
But in order not to, cause the parent the, top most worst tragedy that could happen in a person's life, which is to lose a baby from an accident that could be blamed on yourself. Yeah, we have a lot of rules like don't shake the baby, don't put the baby in a crib with other stuff in it, and don't sleep with a baby. So
One time when my stepsister was like 3-ish, I want to say. She's 7 now, but when she was like 3-ish, I was over at the house and she went into, they have like a standing shower in the master bathroom, and she went into there. She grabbed one of the razors and just like on her face, just fucking cut her face. Cause what does she know? What is that? obviously she's 3, so she's
Well,
just
she
gonna be
just
like
wanted
weird.
to feel something.
It was so crazy. Like, it was just like a scrape on her chin of just like razor, and she was totally fine. Like, it was totally fine. We put some like cornstarch on it, and she was totally fine. But like, it was so my stepmom like freaked the fuck out, and I was like, well, maybe we gotta put the razors away so the baby can't fucking touch them. It was like, she didn't even cry. Like, it was so crazy. But babies like babies and toddlers actively are trying to find ways to die. Like, it's just once they start walking, they are going to grab the most dangerous thing you own in the house and play with it. And that's just the reality of it. Like, my baby sister has tried to take my fucking jewel from me before, and I'm like, nope, we're gonna put, because they put stuff in their mouth, so I'm like, no, we're not gonna do the nicotine when you're 3. Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
Now, when she's 13.
That's a different story.
All right. Do we want to wrap up the plot of this movie? So he kills the baby. Is that we made
So,
that
anyways,
clear,
he kills
right?
the baby.
Yeah, he gets he kills it. And you know, at first with this scene, like, he's taking the bandages off, and you don't like, it looks like curiosity to a point, right? Like, it doesn't look like he's going to kill it. He's just kind of like, what's going on down there? And it's gross, and it's really nasty. David Lynch dissected a cat to in preparation for this movie to see what things looked like and how they felt, to get the
I
vibe.
thought you were gonna say he just like spilled the guts into the.
Well, there was a dead cat outside of where they shot, you know, the opening shot where he's just walking. Like, there's a dead cat. There was a dead cat out there. So what he did was dissected that dead cat and felt all of its organs and fur, and then made the baby. So it could be made out of the dead cat. I don't know. He won't say. He didn't say. But yeah, and then Henry takes those fucking scissors and he stabs that baby. He stabs that baby. And it's really gross and weird.
And then he escapes with the radiator lady, and it was all good.
Yeah.
Yep. It was all good except for the baby.
He
It was not
avoided
good for
his
the baby.
responsibilities so much so that he kills
All
the
right.
baby.
Who would you recommend this movie to?
I mean, people that like David Lynch, obviously. I feel like everyone who likes him has seen this. I would probably, like, I don't know, I would recommend it to people who are trying to get into, like, an avant-garde surrealist kind of vibe. But, yeah, I think this would be a good intro to surrealism in film. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Film nerds, men in their mid to late 20s. Yeah,
Young
fans, David
fathers.
Lynch.
I think if you go to an art museum and you can look at a painting and be like, wow, it's like I'm pulling these themes and like I can feel this emotion and it means this, you might like this movie. When I go to an art museum and I look at a painting, I'm like, I like this one. And that's all that goes through my head.
Okay.
So if you're smart and you like to dissect art, maybe you'd like this.
Like me!
All right, let's not get carried away.
All right, let's get into the voicemails.
It's horror movie.
Guys, I'm starting to crash out. I don't know why. Past like 5 minutes, I just started being like, oh, I'm so tired of recording. We've only been recording for an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's not really that long.
All right,
trying to get my
here's the
energy up.
first voicemail.
Hi guys, this is Amanda from Indiana. I've been messaging you guys back and forth for a little bit, and I've always been kind of scared to call in. But as of right now, I am laying in a hospital bed recouping from one surgery. I had gallstones clogged in my bile duct, and they had to remove those today. And then tomorrow I'm getting my gallbladder completely removed. So no more gallstones, no more pain on that end, so that's a plus. But I just really want to reach out and let you guys know that I really, really enjoy listening to you guys multiple times a week through Patreon, and I will go back and re-listen to afterpods and just older podcasts of everything that you guys do. Before David left, after David left, with Sydney and Max, and I was scared whenever David left, but then whenever Sydney and Max came in, they were like a breath of fresh air, and they are hilarious. I really enjoy all three of you guys. The bond that you guys have, it's like a older brother, younger siblings kind of thing, and I really, really love that. So you guys are doing fantastic, and I hope you all keep up the incredible work you do. And I just want to let you guys know that because of y'all, from my 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. boring, mundane computer work job, you guys help me make it through the day. And I'll laugh to myself with my iPods in, and people are like, what's going on with you? I'm like, don't worry about it. But I really enjoy all the content, no matter what. I really enjoy and appreciate you guys. I hope you all have a fantastic day. Valentine's Day is coming up tomorrow, so this is probably going to be listened to later on. But thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it, guys. Love you all. Love and health. Bye, guys.
Wow, I hope you're
That was
okay.
That was such
thanks,
a
Amanda.
sweet voicemail.
That was so sweet.
Kind words. Yeah, bile gallstone stuff is no joke. I had like one thing that happened with my gallbladder once where like it was the weirdest thing in the world, and it's only happened to me once. What's the weirdest color you've ever shit?
I've peed orange.
You've peed orange. All right, that's normal. But what's the weirdest color you've ever shit?
Probably green.
Green?
Red.
Red?
Max.
Blood.
Red is scary. Would you
No.
believe white? It was the scariest thing in my life. I had like just terrible stomach pain and like had diarrhea. Like it was one of the few times where I've ever like actually shit a little before I got to the toilet, and I just just like projectile shit into the toilet and turn around, it's white. It was terrifying.
That is so awful.
And I had to like look it up because I thought I was dying, and apparently like if you can have a problem with your gallbladder and it's like a bile thing, it can turn your shit white. So it only happened once. Like, have you ever, in like elementary school when you made paper pulp to make recycled paper? It was like you took a blender of paper pulp and just poured it into the toilet.
Sydney needs to keep a trash can by their spot because
I
you're
like
always
can't.
gagging.
The poop stuff is really, really gross to me. Like,
Well,
it's really
too bad.
really
You're about to get another story because now I have to explain red.
No.
One time in college, I don't know how this happened. I don't know what I did, but I took the biggest poop of my life, and it was so big, in fact, that it tore me up on the way out. Absolutely
Okay.
ripped my insides up. So bad that it did not heal for a year.
So you had hemorrhoids.
I don't
you
know
had
what.
an anal fissure.
I don't know what it was, but it hurt to poop for a year.
And you
And
never
blood-
just
and
went
blood
into the
came out.
doctor to ask about it or
Nah,
get a stitch?
that's embarrassing.
Nah, bro, that's gay.
But I'm like for a year when I would wipe, there'd be blood.
There will be blood. Hashtag there will be blood. Yeah, that's rough.
Amanda, I hope that you've recovered from your surgery and you're very sweet, and thank you so much for finally calling. I know I saw those messages. I think I might have responded to one of them, but I'm glad you finally called because that made us feel really good, and Bryce's story about poop did not make me feel good.
All right, next caller.
Paper mache.
Hey guys, this is Iris from Jersey in the house. So yeah, I have a couple things. Bryce, I'm a little bit mad at you because I have a sister with special needs, And I'm very offended when I was listening to your Stir of Echoes episode where you didn't talk about Stir of Echoes. But anywho, your movie pitch for Virus R, you sent me straight to hell, a one-way ticket to hell with that because I was laughing and was not expecting it. It's messed up. But anywho, we missed David. I miss David, but, you know, I love the boost of estrogen on the show. So, Max, thanks for that. And listen to Sydney. She Day is great, too. I really do love listening to you guys. And, you know, I'm having fun. Love you guys. Bye.
That was fucking awesome.
Catching strays.
Man,
Oh,
everybody has got just a little bit of hate from Max.
All right. Well, we're out of time. We better finish up this episode. Sydney, you got to pee, right?
What?
We don't have time for the rest of these voicemails.
How many
I thought
are
we only
there?
had one more. Why don't we just play the last one?
No, we have two more, but it's getting so late. We've been recording for an hour and a half. No? Okay.
That was so weird.
Just doing what you did on my episode.
I
where we're
know.
playing voicemails.
I'm sorry. I'm okay. I do have to pee, though.
Yes, this is Iris again, Jersey in the house, but I called earlier, and I forgot to say that I really hated you guys' take on Presents. I hated that movie so much. I cannot believe you guys liked it. Sydney, I get it. You had some connection to it. But that movie was terrible. The acting was terrible. The story made no sense. I hated everybody. I was glad the brother died. It was awful. I felt like I was watching a Broadway play the way they acted. It was just, it was awful. But I still like listening to you guys. But whatever. That's all. See ya.
I think
I'm
when I
glad
used
the brother died.
when I used to listen to this podcast before I was on it, I used to love the episodes that I disagreed with you guys because I would watch them. I would listen to them and I would be like, no, that's so wrong. Like the whole time that I would listen. So I think it's I hope it's at least entertaining when we don't have the same opinions as you.
Yeah. I think, valid criticism. The acting was not the strong suit of Presence.
Yeah,
That's fair enough. I like the directing and like the overall movie itself, not necessarily the acting, but yeah. I stand by. It's still a good movie.
Well, I have returned. It is the beast from the Northeast. I know I've been gone for a few months. I apologize. The monkey is my first episode back, and I just have to say, what the hell happened? Sydney's hair got shorter, Max's hair got longer, and Bryce looks like he just crawled out of the Jumanji board. Like, I don't understand what's going on, but I'm here for it. And I got a lot of episodes to get through, so just wanted to call and say hello. And I am alive. Not that anybody was probably wondering.
I was wondering.
And it's good to be back.
What year is it?
Our looks have changed quite a bit over
They
the past year.
It's interesting. I wonder how long he's been gone. Like, how long he hasn't listened. It's funny. But we're glad you're back.
All right, and that's all the voicemails we have.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a ride. What a day, what a night. What a beautiful time to be alive. I'm grateful that you're grateful. And with that,
I'm
bring us
grateful
out, Bryce.
for you as friends. Thank you for coming to our neighborhood. And I'll see you next
It's a
time.
beautiful day in the neighborhood. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Good day, sir. You lose. You get nothing. Is that a raincoat? Yes, it is.
I just took a stroll through the scraggly woods.
He had no face.
Horror!
Wow, that didn't sound good.